Thanks, Brett, and thanks also to the Lord Mayor for getting things underway today, and I think reinforcing the importance of continuing to work across government with the private sector to realise some of the opportunities to grow the region. And I want to thank him as well for his leadership. You heard him on Light Rail, very outspoken on advocating for his communities in Parramatta. As you've just heard, we are going to be taking a bit of a deeper look into some of the infrastructure pipeline in Greater Western Sydney today and the investment opportunities that are currently, or ones that we hope will soon be considered. As I'm sure is no surprise, and as you'll see with our program, with the federal election looming in a region that it will come under the spotlight, a big part of our focus today is centred on the federal government and the role it will play in helping respond to not just the housing crisis, but improving our transport connections and the role that they will play in shaping the future of our cities. And when it comes to defining the future, very few projects in this region have the potential to deliver generational impact than the Western Sydney International Airport. It's why, as part of our federal advocacy, we are calling on the federal government to consider establishing an open skies agreement to enhance tourism and airline attraction opportunities for the first decade of operation so that the airport can really hit the ground running from day one of the end of 2026. We'd also like to see the federal government work closely with Destination New South Wales, and I know there's some conversations that are currently happening, to establish a visitor attraction strategy in partnership with industry, looking at marketing, how we can pool visitor funding in order to make the most of the millions that are going to be arriving at our doorstep in a couple of years' time. In addition to unleashing the regulatory shackles of the airport, we want to make sure that residents in the region are better connected to it. This means, and some of you may have seen the Sydney Morning Herald this morning, and it's in our report, finishing the missing links in the metro airport line so that they extend both to the southwest and to the northwest. Waiting until nearly 2050, as has been premised in early reports from government, to connect the airport to Macarthur is far too long, especially for one of the fastest growing catchments in the country. Our plan, and the one that we'll be taking to government, is for a reallocation of funds that were originally identified for the east, to the line from the city to Zetland, to be directed to the airport line. And when matched by the federal government, we're hopeful we could see this line potentially delivered in the 2030s rather than the 2040s as is currently planned. With business cases currently being developed for both connections, and with both state and federal governments being on record saying that we can't ignore the needs of the growing southwest, we remain quietly optimistic that we'll be seeing some announcements hopefully soon. On the topic of business cases, and we heard from the Lord Mayor earlier, we expect the high-speed rail business case to be finalised at the end of the year. Similar to the Lord Mayor's position, we're adamant that the connection should come through Parramatta. We've got the CEO of High Speed Rail Australia, Tim Parker, who'll provide us a bit of an update on the status of the project later this afternoon. And while I've been encouraged by the discussions we've had recently with Tim and the team, there's no denying in our view that if this project is going to work, and it is a long-term project, let's be pragmatic about it, if it is going to work, then it needs to connect to the geographic and demographic centre of Sydney, which is Parramatta. Parramatta Council, like I know a lot of other councils, such as Liverpool and Canterbury Bankstown and Blacktown, have been patiently waiting for the federal government to release its feasibility study, examining the possibility of SBS relocating to Western Sydney. For those that have been following the dialogue, you'd know that this has been something that we've been advocating quite strongly for nearly a decade now, and despite the federal government acknowledging the values and benefits that a relocated SBS studios would deliver, we're still not closer to an answer. So we're hoping for one pretty soon, and we think that over the next coming months we've got an opportunity to prosecute that case. We're going to be hearing a fair bit today about housing, and we've already heard from the Federal Minister, and the factors that are underpinning future supply and issues of skills I'm sure are going to also come up today. We've seen the role that TAFE New South Wales has played and is looking to continue to play, including through its centres of excellence, ways of ensuring future workers are keeping pace with industry needs. This model, the Centre of Excellence model, is starting to garner success, particularly in the areas of construction and manufacturing, and we'd like to see it applied to Campbelltown TAFE and have designated as a care economy centre of excellence, which would help respond to demand for services and workers in the areas of nursing, health, social care and early childhood education. And last but not least, and as we've just heard from the Minister, we feel that there's some important steps that the federal government can take in partnership with the state and community housing providers that can make a significant contribution to the nation's housing crisis. Perhaps the most impactful and one of the biggest ones that we'd like to see action on is around reforming the current HAF process to provide for quicker decisions and larger scale outcomes, recognising that there are some opportunities, particularly in well-located infill areas in Western Sydney, to engage and better leverage private capital. So that's a very short summary of some of the issues we'll be raising with our friends in Canberra over the coming months. You'll be hearing more about them today. You will see a copy of our document on your tables. Feel free to have a read, and if you've got any questions, happy to have a chat throughout the course of the day. Thanks, everyone.